Most gardeners spend years chasing the same 10 vegetables everyone else is growing, completely unaware that hiding in history, in ancient gardens, in forgotten farmlands, are 20 vegetables so powerful, so productive, and so easy to grow, they were practically erased from modern memory. And the most shocking one on this list? Almost nobody grows it anymore, but our great-grandparents swore by it. Stay with me. What you're about to discover will completely change how you see your backyard. For thousands of years, humans cultivated hundreds of vegetables, feeding families, healing communities, and surviving harsh seasons with nothing but the land beneath their feet. But somewhere between industrial farming and grocery store convenience, most of those vegetables simply disappeared. Not because they stopped working, not because they stopped growing, but because the modern food system decided what we should eat and quietly left the rest behind. These 20 vegetables were once staples, celebrated, depended upon, and today, almost no one even knows their names. Some of what you're about to see were once grown by ancient civilizations on every continent. One of them was so nutritious, Roman soldiers carried it into battle as survival food. Another was a staple in American victory gardens, then vanished almost overnight after World War II. And one, number 14 on this list, grows so aggressively in shade and poor soil that gardeners once called it the vegetable that refuses to die. These aren't exotic plants from distant jungles. Most of them can grow right in your backyard, starting this season. Number 20. Skirret, Siam Cisarum. Most people have never heard this name, but walk into any kitchen garden in medieval Europe and you would have found it growing in nearly every corner. Skirret is a root vegetable, clusters of long, slender, sweet white roots that taste somewhere between parsnip and carrot with a honeyed warmth that made it one of the most beloved vegetables of the ancient world. Roman Emperor Tiberius valued it so highly that he demanded it as tribute payment from Germanic villages along the Rhine. Not gold, not grain, skirret. For centuries it fed peasants and royalty alike. It grew easily, produced abundantly, and asked very little from the soil. Then the potato arrived in Europe from the Americas, and quietly, skirret began to disappear, replaced by something starchier, easier to store, easier to sell. But here is what modern gardeners are rediscovering. Skirret thrives in partial shade, tolerates poor soil, and produces multiple harvests from a single planting. Its roots are rich in fiber, natural sugars, and trace minerals, and it tastes nothing like anything you've bought from a supermarket. This is a vegetable that survived empires. It can survive your backyard. Number 19. Scorzona, Scorzona hispanica. There is a vegetable with black skin, creamy white flesh, and a flavor so delicate and complex that French chefs once called it the gourmet's root. Scorzona, also known as black salsify, was a prized delicacy across Renaissance Europe. In the 1600s, it was believed to cure plague, treat snakebite, and restore vitality to the sick. Whether or not those claims held up to modern scrutiny, the vegetable itself absolutely does. Scorzona is one of the highest plant sources of inulin, a prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria, supports digestion, and stabilizes blood sugar. Modern nutritional science is only now beginning to understand what traditional healers observed centuries ago. It grows as a tall, graceful plant with yellow flowers. It asks for deep, loose soil and patience, taking a full season to mature. But once established, it self-seeds quietly and returns year after year. A vegetable that heals, feeds, and tends to itself. And yet, almost no seed catalog in the modern world even carries it. Number 18. Orach, Atriplex hortensis. Before spinach dominated the world's salad bowls, there was orach. Known as mountain spinach or French spinach, orach grew across Europe and Asia for over 2,000 years. It grew in the gardens of ancient Persia. It fed monastery communities throughout the Middle Ages, and it appeared in some of the earliest recorded herbal medicine texts in history. Orach grows fast, extraordinarily fast. In cool weather, it can reach 6 feet tall in a single season, producing a continuous harvest of tender, mildly salty leaves. It comes in deep red, golden yellow, and green varieties, and unlike modern spinach, it tolerates heat, drought, and poor soil with quiet resilience. It's rich in vitamin C, iron, and calcium. Its seeds were historically ground into flour during famine seasons. This was a survival plant, a garden guardian, and today it sits forgotten while we crowd our raised beds with vegetables that bolt at the first sign of summer heat.
Number 17. Hamburg parsley. Most people know parsley as a garnish, something placed on the edge of a plate and left behind. But there is a version of parsley that was grown not for its leaves, but for its roots. And for centuries across Central and Eastern Europe, it was as common and essential as the carrot. Hamburg parsley produces a thick, creamy white root with a flavor that blends celery, parsley, and a faint sweetness, complex and deeply aromatic. It was a cornerstone vegetable in traditional Polish, German, and Czech cooking. Soups, stews, roasted root medleys, Hamburg parsley appeared in all of them. It thrives in cool weather in poor soil. It stores beautifully through winter. And it offers something most vegetables cannot, both edible roots and abundant flavorful greens from the single plant. 2 harvests, 1 plant, almost zero effort. And yet somehow, in the shift toward mass-market food production, Hamburg parsley simply vanished from most Western gardens without explanation. Number 16. Good King Henry. This plant has one of the most unusual names in the vegetable kingdom and an equally unusual story. Good King Henry, named not after any English monarch, but a German folklore spirits believed to protect homes and gardens, was once one of the most widely grown vegetables in European cottage gardens. Every part of it is edible. Young shoots in spring taste remarkably like asparagus. Mature leaves are used like spinach. The seeds can be ground into flour. It is perennial, meaning once you plant it, it returns every single year without replanting. It is a plant of extraordinary generosity. Good King Henry thrives in partial shade, grows in nutrient-poor soils, and spreads slowly into a reliable, self-sustaining patch. It was a staple food for rural communities who had little land and fewer resources. In a world increasingly concerned with food security and sustainable growing, this forgotten perennial offers exactly what modern gardens desperately need, and almost no one is growing it. Number 15. Salsify. In the 19th century, salsify was so popular in American kitchen gardens that seed catalogs featured it prominently on their front pages. It was called the oyster plant, because when cooked, its creamy white roots develop a subtle, briny flavor that closely resembles oysters. For inland communities far from the coast, salsify was how families experienced seafood flavor without ever seeing the ocean. It grows tall and dramatic, with striking purple flowers that attract pollinators throughout the season. Its roots take a full growing season to develop, but they store through winter in the ground, ready to harvest whenever needed. Salsify is rich in potassium, iron, and dietary fiber. Its roots contain high levels of inulin, supporting the same gut health benefits as scorsoneri. A vegetable that tastes of the sea, grows in your garden, and feeds your gut microbiome, once celebrated across America, now nearly invisible. Number 14. Landcress. This is the one that gardeners once called the vegetable that refuses to die. Landcress, also known as American cress or early yellow rocket, is one of the most cold-hardy, shade-tolerant, low-maintenance leafy greens ever cultivated. It grows in conditions that would destroy most other vegetables. Freezing temperatures, dense shade, compacted soil. Landcress simply continues. Before watercress became commercially available, landcress filled every role watercress now occupies as a peppery, nutritious salad green with a bold, distinctive bite. It was a winter staple when nothing else would grow, a reliable green through the harshest months of the year. It is extraordinarily high in vitamin C, historically used to prevent scurvy during long winters. It contains glucosinolates, the same powerful compounds found in broccoli and kale, linked to cellular protection and anti-inflammatory activity. Plant it in your shadiest, most neglected corner. Ignore it, and it will feed you faithfully through conditions that defeat everything else. Number 13. Alexander's. Long before celery became the vegetable world's most recognizable crunchy stalk, there was Alexander's. Named after Alexandria, the ancient Egyptian city that was once the intellectual and trading capital of the known world, Alexander's was one of the most widely used culinary herbs and vegetables in Roman and medieval cooking. Every part of the plant was used: leaves in salads, stems braised or roasted, roots boiled like parsnips, seeds ground as spice. It has a flavor profile that blends celery, parsley, and a warm, almost myrrh-like earthiness. Complex, aromatic, deeply satisfying. Alexander's is a coastal plant by nature, thriving in salty, wind-swept environments where few other vegetables survive. But it grows equally well in temperate gardens with moderate moisture and partial shade. When celery was cultivated and refined into the mild, watery stock we know today, Alexander's lost its place in the garden, but its complex flavor and its extraordinary hardiness were never replaced, only forgotten.
Number 12. Sea kale. There is a vegetable that grows wild on the stony beaches and coastal cliffs of Europe, forcing its way through gravel and salt spray, and produces some of the most tender, delicate shoots any garden can offer. Sea kale was a celebrated delicacy in 18th and 19th century Britain. Aristocratic households grew it in forcing pots, covering the emerging spring shoots to blanch them pale and sweet. It appeared on the tables of Georgian manor houses as a seasonal luxury, prepared simply with butter and salt. It is a perennial. Once established, which takes patience, typically 2 full seasons, sea kale returns every spring for decades. Some established plants live and produce for 20 years or more. Its blanched spring shoots taste like a cross between asparagus and hazelnut. Mature leaves can be cooked like cabbage. Even the flower buds are edible, resembling a sweeter, nuttier version of broccoli. A 20-year harvest from a single planting, requiring almost nothing in return. This is the kind of vegetable that once made kitchen gardens legendary. Number 11. Turkish rocket. Do not let the word rocket mislead you into thinking this is simply a variety of the salad leaf you already know. Turkish rocket is something altogether different, a towering perennial vegetable that produces edible shoots, leaves, and flower buds across an extraordinarily long growing season. It originates from the steppes of Central Asia and the Middle East, where it has fed communities for thousands of years in some of the harshest growing conditions on Earth. Its young spring shoots are harvested and cooked exactly like sprouting broccoli, mild, tender, slightly peppery. As the season progresses, its leaves can be used like mustard greens. Its yellow flowers attract beneficial insects throughout summer. Turkish rocket is drought-tolerant, cold-hardy, and almost aggressively perennial. Once planted, it expands quietly into a reliable, productive patch that returns without fail every single year. In an era of climate uncertainty and unpredictable growing seasons, a vegetable this resilient, this generous, and this ancient deserves a place in every backyard garden. Number 9. Minutina. Here is a vegetable so ancient it appears in Roman agricultural manuscripts, so flavorful it was prized in Renaissance Italian kitchen gardens, and so completely forgotten today that most gardeners have never even encountered its name. Minutina, also called erba stella or buck's horn plantain,
produces distinctive antler-shaped leaves with a crisp texture and a mild, slightly salty, almost succulent flavor. It was a beloved winter salad green across Mediterranean Europe for centuries. It is extraordinarily cold-hardy, growing actively through frost and even light snow. It tolerates poor, dry soil. It self-seeds prolifically, returning season after season with no intervention. And its nutritional profile is remarkable, high in omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin K, and calcium. A leafy green with the nutritional density of a superfood, growing quietly in conditions that would challenge most other vegetables. This was once a staple of the Italian table. Today, it grows in almost no garden outside of specialty growers and dedicated heritage seed preservationists. Fat hen. Most gardeners who encounter fat hen pull it out of the ground immediately, mistaking it for a weed. They are unknowingly discarding one of the oldest cultivated food plants in human history. Fat hen, also known as white goosefoot or lamb's quarters, has been found in the stomach contents of Tulland man, a remarkably preserved bog body from Iron Age Denmark dating back over 2,000 years. It was part of his last meal. Archaeological evidence shows fat hen was cultivated as a grain and leaf crop across Europe and Asia for millennia, long before modern leafy greens were developed. Its seeds were ground into flour, its leaves cooked exactly like spinach, but with a richer, earthier flavor and a higher concentration of protein, calcium, and iron than spinach itself. It grows in almost any condition, it volunteers freely in disturbed soil, and it produces abundantly with zero effort. The most productive vegetable in your backyard might already be growing there, and you've been pulling it out. Welsh onion. This is not a vegetable from Wales. The name comes from an old Germanic word, Welsh, meaning foreign or unfamiliar. Welsh onion originated in Siberia in China, where it has been cultivated for over 2,000 years. It's one of the foundational vegetables of East Asian cooking, appearing constantly in Chinese, Japanese, and Korean cuisines as both a culinary ingredient and a medicinal plant. Unlike the bulb onions most Western gardeners grow, Welsh onion never forms a large underground bulb. Instead, it produces an endless supply of hollow green stems and small white bases, mild, sweet, and continuously harvestable throughout the entire growing season. It's a true perennial. Cut it down, it regrows. Divide it, both halves thrive. It tolerates cold, heat, drought, and shade with extraordinary equanimity. A Welsh onion patch, once established, can provide fresh allium flavor to your kitchen for a decade or more. This is not a novelty crop. This is a foundational garden vegetable that the Western world simply forgot to adopt.
Number 7. Mashua, Trapeoleum tuberosum. High in the Andes Mountains of South America, at elevations where most vegetables refuse to grow, the Inca civilization cultivated a tuber so remarkable that it fed entire mountain communities through conditions of altitude and cold that would defeat almost any other crop. Mashua, a tuberous relative of the familiar nasturtium, produces colorful, peppery tubers in yellow, orange, red, and purple. It was one of the 4 sacred crops of the Inca, alongside potato, quinoa, and corn. It grows with extraordinary vigor in poor, cold soils. Its flowering vines are beautiful. Every part of the plant is edible, leaves, flowers, and tubers alike. And here is what makes Mashua genuinely remarkable from a modern nutritional standpoint. Its tubers contain high concentrations of glucosinolates and isothiocyanates, compounds extensively studied for their potential role in cellular health and immune support. An ancient Andean sacred crop, a visually stunning garden plant, a nutritional powerhouse, growing in almost no backyard in the modern world. Number 6. Sanchino chicory, Cichurium intybus. Before the age of winter supermarkets and year-round imported produce, European gardeners relied on chicory to carry them through the coldest, darkest months of the year. Soncino chicory, a heritage Italian variety with roots going back centuries in the Po Valley region of northern Italy, produces deep green, slightly bitter leaves through autumn and winter when almost nothing else in the garden is alive. Bitterness, in the traditional Italian food philosophy, is not flaw, it is medicine. Bitter compounds in chicory, particularly intibin and lacticopicrin, have been shown to support liver function, stimulate digestion, and reduce inflammation. Traditional Italian communities understood this intuitively. Bitter greens in winter were not a culinary preference, they were a health practice passed down through generations. Soncino chicory asks almost nothing of the gardener. It tolerates frost, shade, and neglect with remarkable grace, and it provides nutritious, flavorful greens precisely when the garden needs them most, in the depths of winter when every other bed lies empty and cold. Number 5. Earthnut pea, Lathyrus tuberosum. Somewhere beneath the soil of old European meadows and abandoned agricultural land, small, sweet, chestnut-flavored tubers are quietly waiting to be rediscovered. The earthnut pea, also called the tuberous pea or aukkacher, was once harvested wild and cultivated across Europe for its underground tubers. In 17th century Holland, street vendors sold roasted earthnut pea tubers the way modern cities sell roasted chestnuts. In France, they were considered a delicacy. The plant itself is a climbing vine with beautiful pink and purple flowers, ornamental enough for any garden. Its nitrogen-fixing roots improve the soil around it, and its tubers, roasted or boiled, develop a sweet, nutty, deeply satisfying flavor, unlike anything in the modern vegetable world. It was not agriculture that ended the earthnut pea's prominence, it was economics, tubers too small for efficient industrial harvesting. But for the backyard gardener who harvests by hand with patience and care, this forgotten treasure is entirely within reach. Number 4. American groundnut, Apius americana. Before European settlers arrived in North America, indigenous communities across the continent had already discovered one of the most remarkable food plants the continent had to offer. The American groundnut, a climbing vine with fragrant, deep reddish-purple flowers, produces strings of underground tubers that are rich, starchy, and deeply nutty in flavor. Indigenous peoples harvested and cooked them for thousands of years. Early European colonists, facing their first brutal winters in an unfamiliar land, survived partly because indigenous neighbors shared this plant with them. American groundnut contains approximately 3 times the protein of the potato. It fixes nitrogen from the atmosphere, actively improving soil health as it grows. It produces edible beans in addition to its tubers, and it returns perennially, expanding its underground network quietly and steadily, year after year. This was a foundational food of North America for millennia. European agricultural systems arrived, and it was set aside, displaced by crops that were easier to harvest at industrial scale. But in a backyard garden, where every harvest is personal and every plant is tended by hand, the American groundnut is nothing short of extraordinary. Number 3. Scorpion weed, or fiddleneck, Phacelia tannacetifolia. This one surprises people every time. Most gardeners know Phacelia, if they know it at all, as a cover crop or pollinator plant. Its spiraling purple flower clusters are among the most beloved by bees of any plant in the temperate garden. But what most people don't know is that young Phacelia leaves are edible, harvested before flowering, and used as a cooked green in traditional European folk cooking. In regions of Germany and Eastern Europe, it appeared quietly in peasant kitchens for generations. Beyond its edibility, Phacelia's role in the garden ecosystem is staggering. It attracts more species of beneficial insects than almost any other plant. It suppresses weeds through dense ground coverage. It breaks up compacted soil with deep taproots, and it decomposes quickly when cut, adding rich organic matter to the bed beneath it. A vegetable, a pollinator magnet, a soil healer, and a weed suppressant in a single plant. This is not merely a forgotten vegetable. This is a forgotten garden philosophy.
Number 2. Yuccan,
In the high valleys of the Andes, long before the word superfood existed, communities were growing a plant whose roots taste unmistakably like sweet, crisp apple or pear, despite being a tuber pulled from the earth. Yacan, sometimes called the Peruvian ground apple, has been cultivated in South America for at least 1,000 years. Its large, sweet tubers can be eaten raw, roasted, or juiced. They have an extraordinary, crunchy, refreshing texture, completely unlike any other root vegetable. And here is what makes yacan one of the most remarkable plants on this entire list. Its sweetness comes primarily from fructo-oligosaccharides, a type of carbohydrate that the human body cannot fully digest. This means yacan tastes sweet, but contributes very few usable calories. And simultaneously, those same fructo-oligosaccharides act as powerful prebiotics, feeding beneficial gut bacteria and supporting digestive health in ways modern science is only beginning to fully map. A sweet, crunchy, low-calorie root vegetable that actively improves gut health, growing in almost no backyard garden in the modern world. The Inca knew, and somehow we forgot. Number 1. Oca. And here, at the top of this list, is the vegetable that might genuinely change how you think about what belongs in your backyard. Oca is the second most widely grown tuber crop in the Andes of South America, second only to the potato. It has been cultivated there for over 8,000 years. Its small, colorful tubers come in a breathtaking range: deep red, bright yellow, pale pink, speckled orange. Left in sunlight after harvest, they sweeten dramatically as their oxalic acid converts to sugars. Roasted, they caramelize into something that tastes faintly of lemon and sweet potato combined. Eaten raw, they are crisp and tangy. Oca grows easily in cool climates, tolerates partial shade, and produces abundantly in poor soil. It is almost completely unknown in North American and European home gardens, and yet 8,000 years of cultivation, a color palette that would make any garden bed beautiful, a flavor profile that surprises everyone who tastes it for the first time. This is not an exotic curiosity. This is a crop with 8 millennia of human relationship behind it, a vegetable that fed civilizations, that survived the altitude of the Andes, that adapted to conditions that defeat lesser plants. And it is waiting, quietly, for someone to bring it back. If you're still with me right now, that tells me something about you. You're someone who actually cares about where your food comes from, about growing something real. If this video is opening your eyes to possibilities you never considered, take a second to like and subscribe. Every week, we uncover exactly this kind of forgotten, powerful knowledge, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now here is the question nobody seems to be asking. These weren't obscure plants discovered in remote jungles. They weren't difficult to grow. They weren't low-yielding or unreliable. Many of them outperformed the vegetables we replaced them with in nutrition, in resilience, in flavor, in adaptability. So why did they disappear? The answer is uncomfortable. Industrial agriculture was never designed around what was most nutritious, or most sustainable, or most suited to the home gardener. It was designed around what was easiest to harvest by machine, easiest to ship, easiest to sell. And everything that didn't fit that system was quietly left behind. An entire library of human agricultural knowledge built over thousands of years across dozens of civilizations, reduced to a handful of commodities that fill the same 5 shelves in every supermarket on Earth. What we lost wasn't just vegetables. We lost generations of accumulated wisdom, and most of us never even noticed it was gone. There is something profound about a seed that has survived thousands of years. Think about what that means. Every generation, through wars, through famines, through the collapse of empires and the rise of new ones, someone chose to save that seed, to plant it again, to pass it forward. That is not just agriculture. That is an act of faith, a quiet promise made across centuries from one human hand to another. And somewhere along the way, we stopped keeping that promise. But here is what gives me hope. Seeds don't forget. They don't expire from neglect the way knowledge sometimes does. They wait, patiently, sometimes for decades. And the moment someone chooses to plant them again, everything those ancient gardeners knew, everything they preserved, everything they quietly passed forward, comes back to life. Your backyard is not just a garden. It is a place where forgotten history can be quietly, powerfully restored. The most radical thing you can do in a modern world that has forgotten its roots is remember them. Every one of these 20 vegetables represents something far greater than a harvest. They represent a thread of human knowledge stretching back thousands of years, knowledge that survived drought and war and the rise and fall of entire civilizations, only to nearly vanish in a single generation of industrial convenience. But that thread has not broken, not completely. It exists in heritage seed banks, in the hands of dedicated growers, in quiet backyard gardens where someone decided that what was almost lost was worth finding again. You don't need acres of farmland. You don't need perfect soil or ideal conditions. You need curiosity, intention, and one small corner of earth that you're willing to tend. That is enough to begin reclaiming something ancient, something real, something that was always meant to be yours. So, tell me, which of these 20 forgotten vegetables surprised you the most? Was it the Inca's sacred oca, the Roman emperor's beloved skirret, or perhaps the vegetable already growing quietly in your garden that you've been pulling out as a weed? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this kind of forgotten knowledge speaks to something in you, subscribe, because every week we come back here together and we remember.